all week long, we are interviewing people that have applied to serve on the RESA Board of Directors. So I'm super excited today because we have the wonderful Lori Bitter from California. How are you, Lori?
Good, thank you.
And to help with the interview, we have Red Bear Nuevo. How are you?
I'm good.
Excellent, excellent. And we have Joe K. Duro Jai. I think I've got it almost.
You got it.
Almost. Okay. So I am going to actually, we're going to take turns asking questions. It takes about 30, anywhere 15, maybe 30 minutes. And at the end, if we have time for open questions, we can do that as well. But for right now, I'm going to stay silent. I'm going to turn it over to Joe K.
All right. Hi, everyone, and hello, Laurie. So good to see you. And thank you for stepping up to volunteer. That's always a wonderful thing to see. So the first question is, board members often need to work collaboratively. Can you share an example of a situation where you successfully collaborated with a diverse group of individuals to achieve a common goal?
Sure. Yeah, I think collaboration is the key to certainly serving on a board, but also in running our staging teams every day. I mean, it's what we do. My background before staging was in managing advertising agency teams. So everything in that world depends on large groups of people coming together and creating the very best product for the clients. So it's everything from creative people who write and design to the account people who manage the money and the client relationships. Every person on that team has a different role to play, and they bring something fresh to the process that's vital to creating whatever the campaign result's going to be. So that's a world that is very natural to me. When I first started staging and I was kind of on my own, it was what I missed the most, was not having all those people around me all the time to collaborate with. And I think one of the keys there was, as a leader, I had to learn to listen actively and make sure everybody was heard in those situations, which I think is sometimes difficult in collaborative environments. I also had to learn when to close those conversations and when to elevate the best of our work, to get it in front of clients. And I think, I use a lot of that mentality and thinking when I work with my staging teams now.
Excellent. I love that. So in addition to working collaboratively, networking is also crucial in building partnerships and relationships for RESA's success. How would you approach building relationships with sponsors, industry influencers, and members in order to further RESA's mission?
Yeah, I worked with a lot of nonprofit member organizations in my agency world. We were consultants to AARP and to the Military Officers Association, for example. And I learned pretty early on that the key to creating those partnerships was making sure there was a shared vision and that the objectives of both organizations were really well aligned. And also to communicate with transparency and honesty. I think, when partners come to the table and they're not being transparent about what their goals are for a partnership, then that's when things start to unravel a little bit. And so I really think that communication and transparency key is big. I think our industry, the staging industry, is really growing and shifting as the real estate market is evolving. And I think we have a huge opportunity to position RESA for a bigger seat at the table where those conversations are being held. I've also learned that getting there requires that, we really demonstrate expertise, that we have great, research and can talk about our contribution to the market. I think a lot of times we get stuck in what I call the vendor trap as opposed to the partner trap in our world. And I would love to see real estate kind of nationwide understand what we contribute financially to their bottom line, as opposed to just being another vendor that's on their list. And I think that's really important. I think we have a great opportunity there. So, I think once we can kind of earn that seat at the table, we can begin to create really provocative messages about who we influence and how we influence them, and we can show up in places where we can share that message, whether we're in the audience, whether we're speaking, whether we're publishing, or whether that's a digital campaign.
Excellent. Red? Red, you're muted.
Volunteering on board, Lori, requires a passion for the organization's mission. Can you share a personal story or experience that exemplifies your dedication to RESA's goals? And how does your passion drive your commitment to the board's work?
Yeah. I thought a lot about this question because I went through a shaky period with RESA, and I'm being completely open about that. I joined the year before my company started, and I felt like I got all these tools and some great relationships to get my company off the ground. But about 4 years in, I really was struggling with growth strategies and how I was going to get to the next level. And I couldn't find a business coach that could really help because they didn't know enough about the industry. And I had gone to RESACon that summer, and I was sort of like, I don't know, I think I kind of isolated, and I was just in a stuck place, and I almost quit. I literally almost quit. But I kind of did a little bit of a rewind and went, okay, there are people here who are at the same place that I am, and I just have to find them. I have to find my people. And so I came back the next year, and I actively worked through the group, and I found peers, and through sharing our stories and also providing RESA with feedback through the surveys and things like that, and networking, I began to find my tribe within the organization of people who were in the same place I was. And I think, it's a story of you get out of it what you put into it. I mean, I had to get in there and actively engage to get what I needed. And, I really think, I think we need an active, influential nonprofit voice in the real estate world. And I have a passion for that. I think I've seen how large nonprofit organizations can influence not only their constituents, but the people that they're trying to work with. And I want to help do that for RESA. I think I want to give back some of what I got. I mean, I've had a lot of my respect level changed after getting over that hump, I think, and being able to find my people.
Excellent.
Well, thank you for sharing all of that. I can resonate with that. And my next question to you is that the dynamics of a board can change over time. How do you adapt to new leadership styles and board compositions? Can you share an experience where you successfully integrated into a new team environment and contributed positively to the group's objectives?
Yeah, I mean, I think in many ways that's been my whole career, because in the advertising world, you go in and out of client relationships all the time. I mean, it's constantly evolving. I've done a lot of work with startup companies in Northern California, sort of as their on their advisory board, as their marketing person, to sort of help keep them focused on marketing. And a lot of times you're walking in to situations where somebody sort of already owns that role in the organization, and here you're this new board member, and and you have all these thoughts and ideas. And I think my approach is always to listen carefully and understand what people care deeply about, because a lot of times when we think it's ego. It is really people just caring deeply. And you have to not just label that as oh, that person's an egomaniac and I'm never going to get through with them. You really have to listen deeply and learn what they care about. And I think so I think understanding their why, the why they're there is really critical. The other thing is I do a lot of research to understand where my colleagues are coming from. So when I've had these new board assignments, I'll dig deep. I mean, I go deeper than LinkedIn. I really want to know where those people have been and what their experiences have been, because, sometimes we're the walking wounded in our careers. We come in with a lot of baggage, and if people don't know where we've been and what our experiences have been, they don't know how to relate to us in that way. So I think kind of knowing who's around the table and where they've been has been a great tool for me. And I also think my personal curse, and sometimes it's a superpower, but mostly it's a curse, is I sort of doggedly over prepare for everything. I'm kind of like I can be too much sometimes in my preparation. But I want to understand, part of that preparation is understanding what I can contribute, where I can fit into that mold of people, that group of people, where I can fit and where I can provide the most to the overall success. Because the last thing I want to do is come in and start doing this with people. I don't want to start throwing out opinions and not being well informed or really understand, where the group has been before and the landscape they've covered before. So I think preparation is key too.
Yeah, I love that. In addition, since you've got experience in nonprofit backgrounds, you are going to be very much well aware that board members often wear multiple hats and they contribute to various projects simultaneously. How do you prioritize your tasks and manage your workload effectively in a demanding board environment?
Yeah, the key for me has been not stepping forward when I'm overcommitted, which I think in the past, especially when my kids were younger, and you step forward for a lot of things, and it's really easy to get in the weeds and get overcommitted. So I have been more careful about choosing to step forward when I know I have capacity, and I think that's something that I had to grow into, because I tend to be a people pleaser and want to make people happy. And so I would step forward when I saw there was a vacuum and people needed help, and then I would end up over my head. So I've tried to learn not to do that. But after 8 years in the staging business, I guess 9 now, I feel like my business is running efficiently and that I have room to begin giving back to our industry overall. I think like I said, I think we're kind of at this really interesting pivot point in the industry where we could really elevate RESA's profile and get a seat at the table where we're a lot more influential with our realtors than we have been in the past. I think those of us who are attracted to this business are sort of hyper organized list makers in some ways, where we like, we juggle a million little details every day. I use things like planning and calendar blocking to make sure I can accomplish things. It kind of started when I was in graduate school. I was a single mom. I had a toddler. I was working, going to grad school, and I had to sort of figure out how to make all that happen. And I got, I have some pretty decent calendar techniques that work for me. I think it's also important in my business now, day to day, as it's grown and I have a team now, to know when to let go of things here and let my team support me. and that's hard. That's really hard, because when you started alone and it's just a couple of you, you and 2 movers, you have to do everything. And the ability to step back and not be in everybody's way and let them take over the pieces of the business that they can handle adequately has been huge for me. And I think seeing that I can do it now has given me sort of that feeling that I could spend some time on other things.
I love that answer.
That is so true. Like, you know what, sometimes it's really hard to like step back and just let them do it because we're so used
Yeah.
to doing it ourselves and doing it our way. But if you want to grow, that's what I learned too. You have to step back and just
Freeing.
Yeah.
let them kind of, you know. And what
And
I
that,
think that
that
really,
feeling you can do it better than everybody is not necessarily true.
yeah,
It's
that's
just
true.
different. It's not
Yeah.
necessarily better or worse. It's different.
That's
Yeah.
true. That's so true. And also, I like it when you said that earlier that, you know, one of the keys to being an effective board of director is listening, because that is so true. You cannot just talk and all the time. You have to listen as well. And
Mhm.
our RESA is almost like, you know, we're helping each other, lifting each other up. And it's always like networking, right? It's always like, how can we help each other? And I know you build your own network as well. And what we were wondering is like, how are you going to leverage, how do you plan to leverage your professional network to promote RESA? Can you provide example of how you successfully utilized your connection in the past for similar purposes?
Mhm. Sure. So, as you've heard now 3 or 4 times, I mean, I come from advertising and PR and in the whole media world. So I have a lot of connections with publications, with experts in different fields. It's a large network of talent, of companies and organizations, and some of them may be relevant to RESA and some of them may not be. But I think until I understand more about, where we're headed and know more about what the plans are for the future, I'm not sure which of those are going to be most appropriate. But, I've helped organizations partner with a new insurance provider for health insurance. I've helped organizations create PR plans that launched a campaign that was designed to sort of create visibility where they'd had none before, and sort of introduce them as an organization to the world at large. I've been responsible. I ran 2 marketing events for 2 different organizations around generational marketing. And so I've had to research speakers and find, speakers outside of like the super expensive speaker bureaus, going to publishers and finding people who've written books and negotiating with publishers to get those people to come to our events and getting their fees lowered by helping to sell their books at events. And, there's all kinds of ways to sort of to work those different kinds of relationships. But I have a lot of them from my past life, and whatever I have still in my here's an old term, Rolodex. Whatever I have in my network, I'm willing to share. It's been really interesting to see media shift from print and broadcast into the digital world, because where we used to have to be on the phone and try to get reporters and writers to cover things with phone calls, now we can connect with them digitally on X and Instagram, and
Yeah.
we've got so much more access to those people and ways to stay in touch with them than we ever had before. So I have a lot of that kind of expertise I think I could bring to bear.
Excellent. I love the Rolodex reference. I used to work in an industry where my personal Rolodex was like, when I was leaving the industry, I literally had people wanting to pay me for it.
Yeah.
So many great contacts. They're gold. These relationships are just gold. So I definitely identify with that. So we're at the end of our question portion. So is there anything else that you would like to add, Lori, to let people know a little bit more about you, or why they should put the trust in you and to elect you to the board of directors?
I'm in Northern California. I started this business. My husband retired from IBM after 40 years, and we moved to Napa. And I was really tired of what I was doing. And I said, I think I'm going to stage your listings, because I had an interior design degree that I really never used. And I went to a local real estate association meeting with him, and he introduced me as his wife and the person who was going to stage his listing. And I left with a dozen business cards. And none of, and the first 20 houses I staged were not for him. They were for other people. And all of a sudden we were like, oh my God, this is going to happen. This is real. So it was, you know, it was a surprise. It was a happy surprise. And I loved the idea that we were contributing to getting people to the next place in their life. I love that feeling that whether it's an older adult that you're helping move out of their home and into a retirement community, and you're helping to make that a really easy transition for them, or whether you're helping a young couple get across country and get out of their house, there's this feeling that we're helping. And I sort of love that. And I think being able to partner with my clients in that way has helped me get out of the vendor zone personally and into a partner zone with my clients. And I really love that about our business. I think after this amount of time, I see where we have needs, like how the industry's shifting, and how we have needs for different kinds of communication, and how things are changing and how we're being challenged. And I would love to help solve some of those problems and be part of that solution. Like, how do we get ourselves on the next level? How do we really achieve our rock star status with the agents, and the respect from the agents, so they see us as people who are helping them create more income? Not, I mean, because that's what we do. We put more money in their pocket too. And I think that's really important for us to have that sort of self-respect about what we do. I mean, we're not just girls with trucks. I mean, it's like, slapping furniture around. We actually, we're very smart, good managers, good time managers, good resource managers, and we're good partners.
Excellent. I love it. Well, that comes to the conclusion of our Stager Talk Meet the Candidates edition today. This has been Shel Broadnax, Joe Kay, and Red. And Lori, thank you for all joining me. Joanna, thank you for the assist. Voting is taking place between October 21st and October 31st. So if you're a RESA member, make sure you check your inbox. We're going to be sending information out in the next week on how to vote, and voting will begin again on the 21st. So don't forget to cast your vote. This is how we form our board of directors. It is very important for the guidance of the organization. So we appreciate your support. Lori, thank you for stepping up and to being courageous enough to go for this position. It's a lot, I know, to have all the eyes on you, and like you're under a magnifying glass, but we certainly appreciate it. For everybody else that joined us, thank you for joining today. And until next time, happy staging. Bye.
Thanks, everyone.
Everyone.
Cut.